I'm Dan Leonard in the East.
And I'm George Whittam in the West.
And together we are
East-West Audio Body Shop.
We have the little Dutch boy, the author of Double Dutch, the great blog on the internet about voiceover and life in general. Paul Strikwerda will be here.
It's time to upgrade your PC or your Mac. I'm going to give you some ideas on how to get the most out of your existing computer. Even if it's one of those hard to work on Macs, there are definitely things you can do. So stay tuned for that.
Right. And I'm going to be talking about dealing with exterior noise that's coming into your audio and how you can solve it and how you find it.
I'm also going to talk about why it's a bad idea to have an iPhone and Pro Tools hooked to the same computer.
We're also going to have, of course, bad audio of the week.
Coming up next on East-West Audio Body Shop.
He's the voiceover studio engineer of the Stars in Los Angeles, California, a Virginia Tech grad with a knowledge of recording studios unmatched in his field. He's a voice actor from Buffalo, New York, with 30 years experience in recording studios and behind the mic. He solves people's home voiceover studio problems in the blink of an eye. Together, there's no studio problem they can't solve, and they'll do it for you tonight. Welcome to East-West Audio Body Shop. Now, live from a basement in Buffalo and an office in L.A., here are Dan Leonard and George Whittam.
And good evening. I'm Dan Leonard in the East.
I'm George Whittam, freezing my hands off in the West.
And together we are
East-West
Audio Body Shop. Amazingly, he's freezing his tochas off there in California. It's the same temperature here in Buffalo, and it's balmy.
It's cold. I've turned into a West Coast wimp, man. Jeez.
Yeah. Spend one winter in Buffalo, and then you'll know what the tropics really is about.
Well, I'm going to get my taste of that going back east for the holidays this year. So
yeah. You just know the second you touch down in Philadelphia, it's 10 feet of snow, and it's going to be like your childhood.
I hope so. If not, I'll be really disappointed. I'll tell you.
Definitely a white Christmas for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have a wonderful show for you tonight, and we've got a great guest. We've got great topics. Our very special guest is joining us from Easton, Pennsylvania, the author and blogger of a blog that I think most of us read because he gets it everywhere. We all know where it is. It's Double Dutch, and it's Paul Strikwerda, and he'll be joining us in about half an hour. So stay tuned for that. We got lots of fun stuff to talk to him about, and especially about a blog he wrote this week about, amateurs doing what, us professionals do.
How dare they?
How dare they? It started from an interesting conversation I had with somebody, and it ended up in his blog, and that'll be interesting. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about, you're going to talk about upgrading your RAM.
Yep.
Does that mean like better horns?
Yeah, exactly. Upgrading your RAM. You gotta get your horns.
That's right.
So we're gonna get the upgrade of the RAM going. Talk about why that helps so much and other ways to optimize your system. Some things with a purchase, and some things that are totally free that you can do to just make your system run like it's greased lightning as opposed to molasses going uphill.
Yeah. Also, a little bit about exterior noise. I've had some very interesting experiences this week with people in their home studios and exterior noise. So we'll talk about that. Mm-hmm. And I guess some stuff about iPhones and Pro Tools. And I wasn't quite sure what you were talking about.
You'll see tonight. I'll tell you what I have to say about that whole thing. So.
All right. Well, why don't we get everything going here?
Yeah.
You go first. What's up with you with this RAM upgrade thing?
All right. Well, I just decided my wife's iMac's been running on 4 gig of RAM. And you know what? The impetus for this whole thing is one word: Chrome. It's my favorite web browser. But the thing about it is it's so good. It has so many features, and it runs, and it's so just great. The problem is we tend to use it too much. So we have it running all the time with at least me, I have no less than, 12, maybe 14 tabs open. And that's basically like having 14 copies of your web browser open. And it uses gobs and gobs of memory, just tons. So if you're a real disciplined user, or, when you're recording and you really shut everything down, your machine, close all the applications, quit everything you're not using. You Mac people, that doesn't mean just clicking the little red X. That means actually hitting Command Q or going to the menu and quitting the program.
Right.
That is going to clear up huge amounts of memory. But if you find that you're still, you still are just a power user multitasker, you just can't help it, you're like me and you have a lot of stuff running, you will plow through 4 gig of memory quick. So I started looking at upgrades. It blew my mind when I saw how cheap it is to go to 8 gig of RAM. My system's already running 8 gigabytes and it's been purring because of it. But it's only about $40 to $50 to get 2 4 gigabyte memory chips for a Mac or PC. So if you're running Mac OS or Windows 7 64, you can handle 8 gig, and it depends on your computer. Some computers, 16 gig. Even the Mac Pro goes up to 64 gigabytes of RAM now. So it basically run as much RAM as you can justifiably afford. If your machine can handle 8 gig, I would say nowadays that's the new minimum for like a top performing computer.
Yeah, you were saying that the RAM's a lot cheaper than it was.
Yeah, it's like $50 for a total of 8 gigabytes. So 2 4 gigabyte memory chips is about $50 and cheaper. So it is insanely inexpensive. I'll tell you what is not inexpensive right now is hard drive storage.
Yeah.
Have you heard about the flooding in Thailand, that whole thing?
I don't know how you could miss it.
Yeah, it's crazy. And what's going down is it's shutting down manufacture, and it's caused this ripple effect, and it's raising the prices of a lot of things, but mostly the hard drives that are manufactured there or the parts are made there. It used to be for a 1 terabyte drive 6 months ago or 4 months ago, you could find just a bare drive, just the physical disk itself for $50, $60. But right now they're up to about $120, $150. So it's not a good time to upgrade your hard drive. If you really need one, look on eBay, because there's people selling them on there and they haven't like jacked the prices up at it like crazy. I just bought a 3 terabyte for about $160 because I wanted to store every DVD we've ever owned on one drive. It's the old goal. It's the holy grail in our house to have every movie available at a touch of a button. Right. So we have that going now. But yeah, those are the things to look for. Now, if you got the dough, the next awesome upgrade is to pull out that spinning disk hard drive and put in a SSD or a solid state drive. Oh man,
I know Macs have them.
Yeah, you can get them as an option.
Cheap.
No, the Mac Airs all come with them by default, which is one reason they tend to be pretty expensive computers. But you can get them with an iMac or I think you can get them with any Mac now, iMacs, Macs Minis. But they're expensive per gigabyte, but for performance, they blow the doors off of spinning conventional hard drives.
I'll tell you, it sounds like your computer really is purring there.
Yeah. My cat is trapped in this part of the house right now, and he's not too happy about it. So I think during the break, I better let him out. He's very vocal. Hi, Max. Hey, Max, come here. Just sit down and relax while you're at it. It's okay. Come here. Jump up.
Come on, kitty.
So anyway, upgrade your computer, keep it running smoothly, close junk that doesn't need to be running. You're just going to love the way the machine runs. And if in doubt, reboot, as Dan taught me, as they say in Canada. If in doubt, reboot, because just the act of restarting your computer flushes the memory out. All that stuff that's sitting in memory, all that is completely temporary. As soon as you shut off the computer or restart it, the memory chip is drained of information and you have a fresh start. And you wouldn't believe how many little weird problems are fixed by just restarting. Yeah,
I've started to notice on my Mac that I'm getting the spinning beach ball of death a little bit more often. I'm like, what is going on here?
That's hard drive mostly, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got to look and maybe see. This iMac's running, I think, almost on 5 years now, so it might be time to get rid of that one. But it's interesting when you start developing these little problems of memory and lag, and you need to look at it's generally a memory problem. Mm-hmm. And sometimes just rebooting isn't going to redo it. Sometimes it keeps getting worse.
Well, yeah, whatever the problem that caused the problem in the first place, sometimes just comes right back after you restart.
Exactly.
So it's not always the problem that fixes it.
Those of us on Macs, of course, one of the things that you and I use is the activity monitor. Yeah, and so and we look and we see, well, how much resources is each individual program using, and if there's something like, I don't know what the heck this thing is, turn it off.
Yeah, here's the activity monitor on my machine right now.
Yeah, show them that.
And it's Ustream Producer is using 92% of the CPU. Now you may wonder, how can that be using 92%? Other things are using 60, 40. Well, it's weird. If you have more than one processor core, they basically measure the percentage based on each individual processor core.
Oh, well, that would explain it.
If you have a dual core processor, then you can go over 100%.
Right.
So, like earlier, Dan and I were I was looking at Skype, and it had 150% of CPU availability. So, check out the activity monitor. If you're on Windows, you just hit Control-Alt-Delete, and that brings up the task manager.
Task manager, right.
And it gives you the same sort of information. But I leave activity monitor running, and I make the icon by right-clicking, and I go and say, make the icon into a memory usage meter. And it turns the icon into a little round pie chart looking thing. And the green on the pie chart is free memory, totally available memory. And when I see that green go away, which Google Chrome usually does quite nicely, then I'll usually quit Chrome and restart it, and it clears right out.
Yeah. Now something like this would, I think, to your average voice actor, who's not doing this intense memory thing that you and I are doing right now with Skype and our audio and all these other things, if you're simply recording audio, it's not quite that critical until you start getting into doing audiobooks. And if you're doing something that's an hour long, then you can start running into problems. But if you're doing 30-second spots, and even if you're doing a lot of multi-layer stuff, it's still not going to be, with audio, isn't as intensive as, say, video is.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. Video editing and anything with Flash, websites with Flash and all that kind of stuff. If you have a couple YouTube pages open, man, they soak up huge amounts of memory. So yeah, just be prudent. If you have an older machine, or you're not up for the upgrade, or if you're running Windows XP, and which really, in that case, it pretty much maxes out at 3 gigabytes.
Right. You
can install 4, but it really only uses 3 gigabytes. It's a limitation of a 32-bit operating system. Just close stuff. That's all I can tell you. Anything you don't need to run, just quit it, and it really helps the machine perform a lot better.
All right. Well, good point there. So just go to your local, buy more, and I'm sure they've got all the RAM you possibly need.
Yeah, I particularly like MacSales.com for Mac stuff, because they're called Other World Computing, and they specialize in Mac. Even though the parts are pretty much all identical to PC, they at least will have tested these things, and they know that the RAM that they're selling will perform properly on your Mac. And if you ever have a Mac with lots of kernel panics, which is when you get this, it's called the blue screen of death for the Mac, where you have this gray screen coming down and saying in 12 languages, hold down the power button because you just crashed. Then that sometimes is caused by bad RAM or bad memory modules. So I've had that happen where I've upgraded somebody's machine, get kernel panics, pull out the new RAM, and it runs fine again. So that's something to look out for too.
All right.
Bored you enough?
That's the skinny on RAM. So fatten up your RAM.
That's right.
And brush up on your Shakespeare. Okay, well, we've got a lot more coming up tonight, but first off, we have to tell you about something that you all have to take advantage of. I have to tell you, nothing tastes better than something that's in one of these cups.
Hell yeah. He's got the new swag cup.
The new East West Audio Body Shop coffee mug.
It looks pretty good.
It does.
I haven't gotten my stuff yet, but
no, I've got mine. I've got my sweatshirt. I was going to wear that tonight, but I'm like, nah, but it's so warm here. So why would I want to wear a sweatshirt? I mean, I've been wearing it the last 3 days. I already got spaghetti sauce on it and stuff. So, but But, we've got these. All you have to do, George, get the address up there, or at least the website up so we can.
I made a new address that's a lot easier to understand.
Even
and remember.
better. Good work.
Yes, and it is, you just go to EWABS. I'm sorry, you go to shop.ewabs.
Shop.ewabs. Write that down.
Shop.ewabs.com. So you no longer have to type in that horrible printfection name. So just go to shop.ewabs.com and it will take you to the shop website, which is on the screen right here. So shop.ewabs.com and boom, you've got our store. So check it out. There's some fun stuff on there, and like a iPad case and a mouse pad and coasters and all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, and of course you're supporting the show when you're doing this.
You are, yeah. Shirts and all the higher priced items you get, we make $5 per item, and the cheaper stuff maybe $2 or $3 per item. But yeah, it really does help us and helps to keep funding and keeping the show's advertising free, or keep the show, advertising free from regards to the Ustream ads.
Right. Not that we don't mind seeing Mike Rowe on here once in a while. We got to get Mike Rowe on here for real, but it's great stuff. I mean, coffee mugs, sweatshirts, T-shirts, lots of stuff for the ladies. There's mouse pads. Mm-hmm. There's jackets for laptops and iPads. There's a big ornament. Big ornaments are big this year. I don't know that from personal experience, but there's
tote
that.
Bag, yeah. Barbecue apron.
The tote bag.
Yeah. The hat.
That's right. So once again, that address, George.
Shop.ewabs.com.
Right. Oh, and of course the water bottles and the all the other stuff that we've got there. So
lots of fun stuff.
That's right. So let's all go over to the EWABS shop. And that almost sounds Dutch. Paul's going to have to comment on that one. And buy your stuff there, because then you get your East West Audio Body Shop swag.
Exactly. Hey, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. I'm going to let the cat out of the office, actually.
Okay, and while he's doing that, I'll just continue on talking here, because it's my turn to talk about something. We had an interesting thing go on. Other camera, George. Oh, there we go. Good. All right. I had an interesting thing go on this week. I had three different clients. Get on the black background there. Three different clients send me audio, which, by the way, you can do. Just go to the to the Home Studio Master site and find the specimen cup there, and you can drop your audio in the specimen cup. I was listening to audio, and I'm seeing a lot of background noise, and the people are telling me, I can't hear anything. I'm like, what do you mean you can't hear it? You can't hear that low rumbling sound, or, I'm hearing like several different layers of sound. Plus I look at it in the spectrograph and I see this stuff, and they're like, I don't hear it. And then as I was sitting there eating breakfast the other day, it suddenly struck me, because we just bought a new refrigerator. I think we talked about that a couple weeks ago. We're just talking about regular day life. We're not superstars here. We're just living our lives. And I, this new refrigerator made a slightly different noise than the old one. The old one made a lot of noise. This one being a bit newer, it's not quite as loud, but the noise was a little bit different. And then I remembered, whenever you buy a new fridge or you have a new furnace or something new in the house that creates a monotonous sound, something that's constant, your brain filters it out. Suddenly you realize, wait a second, I don't hear it anymore. And I think what's going on with a lot of people is there are a lot of internal and external noises in their house, and they don't hear those sounds. Even if they've got good monitors or good headphones or whatever they're monitoring their audio on, they're not used to hearing that sound when they're recording, because they're just listening, whatever the sound is in their house, and it's gone. So when I see it and I say, you've got a bad rumble in there, or I can hear a fan, or I hear that, I go, what are you talking about? Well, I've got a really good process for finding that out now. If we see that kind of stuff, and mostly I can see it in the spectrogram, and sometimes it's like very bright in the low frequency ranges, I said, go out in your driveway and see what's going on out there. See if you can hear some industrial type noise or some heavy mechanical noise. And it's always a very mechanical noise because you can look at it on a waveform, and it's a very regular machine type of noise. Maybe you saw Hunt for Red October or something like that. You know what a propeller sounds like. But there's a very regular mechanical noise to it. And if you hear that, and you can hear it clearly out in your driveway, the chances are, if you've got like picture windows in your house or any windows, those start to act like a diaphragm, and they vibrate even at these low frequencies, probably even more so at these low frequencies, and they transfer that energy into the house. And you may not hear it, but it's there because your brain filters it out. And if you're in a closet or you're in your studio or something like that, it's going to be in there and you may not even be aware of it. So that's why it's good to have some meta person, that means other for those of you who don't speak Greek, listen to your audio and say, I hear this or I hear that. Now, the question then becomes, well, if it's there, let's see, it turned out what were some of the examples? Somebody was a neighbor's heat pump.
Geez,
a neighbor. And he says, and they're not even near, but you went out in the driveway and he heard it. Another one was, I live next to the highway. Well, okay. And during rush hours, not the best time to be recording that.
Yeah.
And then somebody else, I guess they finally figured out what it was. I can't remember what the third thing was, but definitely it was outside influence. Or it's a furnace or something in your house. Maybe you're in an apartment building and it might be a furnace next door or something along those lines. You've got to be willing to look at the totality of what's going on around your studio in order to eliminate it. Yeah. So how do you eliminate that stuff once you know it's there?
Yeah.
What are some of your ideas on that?
Well, I was gonna throw in one last tip to help identify stuff. Is I've been telling people, just close your eyes. Close your eyes for like a minute and listen. I mean, it just turns off the visual parts of your brain, and conversely, it amplifies the part of your brain that's sensitive to hearing, and it works wonders. People that normally wouldn't be hearing these things, they go, oh, okay, no, yeah, I hear the bathroom fan. Oh, I hear there's a fan in the basement. There's a dehumidifier in the basement. Those dehumidifiers in the basement that are hooked to your central air, boy, those things can be a real pain. So anyway, but tricks, well, putting, like Dan showed in his video, putting switches on everything in your house that you can turn off is a good one. Stuff that's outside the house, some of these things, you can do simple things like weather stripping your windows, making sure that they're as airtight as possible. Here in LA, a lot of the houses, the windows are just ridiculous. I mean, in my house, we have the 1920s original casement windows, that have rope that they hang from, with the counterweights. When a vehicle goes by, those windows rattle. I mean, they're just flopping around in the frames. So, sealing all of those windows up with weather stripping helps a lot. And you want to use the closed cell foam, neoprene type weather stripping. It's like a really dense foam. That helps a lot. Once you've done that, then the next thing would be probably sealing off, maybe even sealing off the window completely. If sealing the seams is not doing what you need because the window's too thin, you can seal off that window with a window plug. You can make something out of drywall or 3/4 inch ply, put a rubber gasket around it and shove it into the window frame. I mean, that's the brute force way of doing it. It's the cheapest way. If you really want more glass there, that's when you have to start pulling out the purse and start looking at spending. But that's going to help tremendously. That's some basic things. How about you, Dan? What are some of the things you recommended?
Well, I've been telling people, let's try and seal you in where you are. There's a couple of things. One, if you're on a second floor, maybe that's not the best place to be. I mean, just from what I know from physics, you've got there's things that go on if you're in a wood frame structure, and your things are vibrating, it's going to be more prominent on the second floor. One, for a couple of reasons. One, you're above the floor line, and sound is going to travel better up there because there's nothing blocking it from below.
Right.
So you're going to be getting it up in the upper stories. Plus, you're not at the foundation, so there's actually more flexibility in the house up there. And it's going to vibrate through there more freely than it will, say, in the basement. So I tell people to get, if you can, build it in your basement, if you happen to have a basement. For you people in California, that's the thing underneath your house.
Yeah. Don't see them here too often.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good way to get it. If you go below grade, that's going to stop a lot of those vibrations too. Also, if you're in a closet or something along those lines, try sealing the doors. George was talking about the neoprene seals that you put in your windows. Put those along your door.
Yeah.
Close that. That will also, any air gaps is where sound can go through, and those are some good tips for trying to prevent that.
Yeah.
And we've had some pretty good success with the people with the heat pump and the highway and. Yeah, and I know I don't remember what the third thing was. There was a lot of other things going on. We got a webinar. I'm going on vacation. It's the wife's birthday. I can't remember everything.
Yeah,
but I do remember who's running for president, and now who's not,
and who's not. Yeah.
So, anyway, but those are some of the things you need to look at. And again, you may not be able to judge yourself. That's one of the disadvantages of having a home studio is. You're in an area that you may be desensitized to a little bit. So that's something that perhaps you need to look at.
Yeah, I just finished a studio, and it was a top flight build. We had to build it in 3 weeks, which was crazy. But when it was all said and done, my client was not so happy that it wasn't as quiet as he expected. And the reason it wasn't so quiet is because it was on a second story of a guest house. And so, the sound can come in either directly through the surfaces of, cracks in the walls, air gaps, that kind of thing. But most of the sound, the low frequency stuff that's really hard to get rid of, is coming through the structure. The whole house is shaking, then it's shaking the floor, then it's shaking the walls, and those walls and windows all act as a diaphragm of a gigantic speaker. And they're just transmitting the noise into the room. And that was the problem we were having. If someone ran up the steps, boom, 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 it transferred all the way through the framing of the house. And even though everything was double drywalled and insulated and air gaps and all this stuff, it was still making it through the entire home structure. So, I had to explain to him gently, that there are certain things that can be done within reason. And if you want that last 5 or 10% of isolation, you're going to have to double the time of the build and probably double the budget to deal with them, because second story floating floors and all that stuff are really outrageously expensive. So if the noise coming in is high frequency in nature, it's like voices, people talking, or higher, birds, that kind of stuff. That stuff can all be fixed with some weather stripping.
Right. But and yelling.
And
shut up!
Yeah, it's shut up, on the air signs, all that stuff. It's the lower end frequency stuff and the lower end of the spectrum that can't be solved with just weather stripping. That's where you got to get out the hammer and the nails and the checkbook.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and if that's what you need. Now, but of course, again, a home studio you can do it with a lot of homemade stuff. Yep. But as a I used to work in a school district that was a good 40-minute ride for me every morning. And then there was a snowstorm one morning and I drove all the way out there. Then they said school was canceled.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, yeah. Just as I'm like pulling in front and I'm seeing the school buses wave kids back into their house. It was just snowing like crazy. And I get there and, the superintendent's there. I'm like, why didn't you call it early? He goes, you live where you choose to live.
That's right.
The thing being that if you want to have a home studio, you got to consider where you are. If you're next to a quarry, it may not be the best place to be doing that. If you're next to LAX, it may not be the best place to do that.
Not so hot. Yeah.
Yes.
Or if the 101 runs through your backyard.
Or I-95 or any one of those things.
Right.
Anyway. All right. Well, we've got more to come tonight. We're actually staying on schedule tonight. We might actually make the news at the top of the hour here.
Hey, what do you know?
Yeah, that's right. Paul Strikwerda is going to be joining us in just a couple of minutes. So if you got questions for him, join us in the chat room. And I see lots of our good friends are there. We got to talk about this big party in New York that unfortunately I missed last night. And now I'm thinking that was a bad thing to do, but I still have to keep a little bit of mystery about myself.
Oh, yes, of course.
I know. Paul will tell us all about that, but he also wrote a great blog this week about the quality of audio, and it fit perfectly. And I'm like, well, then we've got to have him on this week. Yeah. Anyway, we'll be right back with Paul Strikwerda right after this, so stay tuned.
Eldorado Recording Services.
Randy Thomas chiming in.
This is Alex Verdi.
Hi, this is Bill Ratner in Los Angeles.
Hi, this is Scott Rummel here in Yorba Linda, California.
Hi, my name is Rick Wasserman.
Hi, this is Tom Kane.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Marshall.
Hi, my name is Zurich.
Hi, I'm Mary McKittrick.
Hi, I'm Peter McHugh.
I was turned on to George by none other than Don LaFontaine, who always swore by his health.
George is absolutely awesome.
ISDN, Source Connect, Phone Patch, FTP, you name it, George has set it up.
It's really the best thing I've ever done for myself. I feel free, safe, fearless, like anything is possible in here.
Unless you like to look for opportunities to waste time, call George.
And he did all of that, long distance over the phone and the internet.
I'm very happy with George, and I cherish
I've got my travel kit, I got my Source Connect, I've got it all going on, thanks to you.
Thanks, George. You make it easy.
Eldorado. This is East West Audio Body Shop with Dan Leonard in the East and George Whittam in the West. Now back to two characters that didn't have anything else better to do, Dan and George.
All right, we are back here on East West Audio Body Shop, and thanks for joining us as 2011 starts to ramble downhill. I guess that's the best way to put it. But it's time for our very special guest to join us tonight. We've had the giants of the industry, and now we're going to have another one. Somebody who we all read every week, the author of Double Dutch, Paul Strikwerda. Paul, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
We're doing wonderfully. Welcome to East West Audio Body Shop. You've been with us before as you called in about your studio. And I take it that the studio worked out really well, because it sounded like you were in your bathroom, I think, when we first talked to you.
Yeah. That was a disaster. That was when I didn't apply any treatment to any wall and any ceiling, and it did sound like I was in my bathroom, and I was really, really sad because I'd spent so much time and so much money on creating my ideal recording space, and I ended up with bathroom noises. That's not something that is very professional. Well, we'll talk about professionalism a little bit later on.
When I heard that, I thought you were faking it at first.
Yeah. I listened to your advice, I listened to your show, and I got lots of foam. And in fact, I just ripped out one of my window plugs, because we were talking about window plugs the other a couple of minutes ago. And this is what I use in my I'm in the basement, as low as I can go here in eastern Pennsylvania. And I got this huge new slab of foam here. You can see it, right? It's from, can I mention the company? Or
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
It's called SoundAway, SoundAway.com. And it comes in like a big mat, and it looks and feels like, have you ever gone camping?
Yeah, like
camping mats,
those cold cell mats.
Nice and thick, and you can cut it to size, and you make it a little bit bigger, and then you push it right into your window, and it creates a perfect seal. Very easy.
I love it.
So that's a plug for the plug.
Yeah, and they're damn comfortable when you're camping too.
Yeah,
so.
and notice how thick that rubber. Yes. That rubber was thick and it's dense. Don't just use acoustical foam paneling. It's not going to do the same thing.
Absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
I've been there, I've done that, I've tried it, and it does not work. This stuff is actually pretty expensive. This little piece here is about $100, but it definitely works. It's worthwhile. And so my studio, hopefully, as you can hear, sounds a lot better.
Yeah, even though you're just using your laptop mic right now, it sounds pretty darn good.
Yeah, really.
Yes, I know. I'm waiting for Santa to send me a brand new laptop camera with 3D sound or whatever they have these days.
I can recommend one for you.
Made, the switch from a PC to a Mac, and I wanted to get a really good camera for my Mac. But now I'm coming to you live from my PC cam and my PC microphone.
Well, there is a cam you can get that will work when you make the transition. It's called the Logitech C910. They're about $50 right now, and you can plug it on a Mac or a PC, and you'll get better audio and way better picture quality. I'm thinking of getting one
write that
myself.
one down.
Yeah, but then the people see all my wrinkles and all.
Oh yeah, it does 1080p. It does 1080. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So of course you weren't in your studio last night. You were in Studio 54. No, you were in New York at the big mixer last night. Give us a quick, firsthand, eyewitness account of what went on last night.
Oh, it was absolutely terrific. Just imagine, it was the place was called the Arena. And when I arrived, there was a line of about 30 people waiting, and it took me 20 minutes to get in. I couldn't just get in and say, "Hi, I'm Paul. I'm the famous author of Double Dutch." No, they almost strip searched me there, and I had to show my ID, and ultimately I made it. And there was a huge room with kind of weird light. It looked like the twilight zone of voiceovers, and it was absolutely packed with 400 to 500 colleagues. And there were people from all over the world, literally. One of my colleagues flew in from Ashdod in Israel, Reuven Miller. We had a whole contingent from Canada. There was somebody from Luxembourg, from Philip Banks was there, from the UK, and a whole bunch of people from all over the United States. And what I like about these events is that, as you know, when you have a home studio, things can get quite lonely.
Yep.
And I often long for the days when I had to go to the studio and you meet all kinds of different inspiring people. You get to talk to the engineer. You get to play with different toys. Sometimes there's a director. There's always something going on. And then I'm here in my little isolation booth. Doors are locked. Can barely breathe, and it's sometimes really sad. And Facebook is nice, Skype is great, but it's no substitute for meeting people in the flesh. And that was one of the great advantages of going there last night. And before I forget, I must remember to really give a big shout out to Eric and Lindsay Shepard of Voice Talent Productions and Mark Grau of his famous voiceover studio, because they were the sponsor of the event, and they made sure that we all could get in there for free and had an absolutely terrific time.
Yeah, I should have gone. Should have been there. Should have gone. But it was going to be a difficult week for me to get there. But apparently everybody else in the free world was there.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about you, but we'll talk about that after the show.
Oh, good. Yeah,
you were still on our minds and spirits. We did miss you. We had some terrific sponsors as well. Great prizes. You could have won a great Sennheiser 421 if you don't already have one. I mean, that's significant. That's a significant price.
Yep, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about Double Dutch. I think most people are familiar with your blog, which seems to get into every group. You know how to RSS that thing. When did you start writing that? What was your inspiration for that?
I started writing it about 2 years ago, and that was exactly the time when I became a full-time voiceover professional. Now, and as you introduced me as a little Dutch boy, I heard that in the introduction. Thank you very much for that. But it is true. I was born, raised, educated, and everything else in the Netherlands, and I came to the United States about 10 years ago. And I had a whole career in radio and television, and was ready to leave that behind. But once you catch that broadcasting bug, you want to be in front of the mic and do what I do now for a living. So after many years of being an amateur, I decided to make the step to become a voiceover pro. And then I looked at this huge country that I found myself in, and I compared it to the Netherlands. Netherlands only has 16 million people. So if I wanted to reach my people there, I simply place like an ad in the paper or go on radio, and I would reach millions of people instantaneously. Now, compare that to the United States with like 320 million people. How do people know about you? How do they find out that you exist? And so I thought, what do I really like doing apart from voiceovers? I love to write. So why don't I start as a blog and tell people about who I am, what I do, and we'll see what happens next. And, 2 years later, it's really incredible. I really have to pinch myself every once in a while and say, what's happening here? I publish a blog, and within an hour, I got like 200 people who've read it and 20 people who comment, and it goes on during the week. And now I have about an average of 5,000 visitors, and most blogs get like between 30 to 60 comments. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, and and the conversation continues on. Now, this week you had a very interesting one that sort of, some of these just take on a life of their own, which is kind of fun when you follow these things. But this week I got involved in it somehow. Somebody I know in Japan contacted me because he was concerned about the quality of audio he was getting from people that he was contacting in the States. And this is not a Japanese guy. This is some Jewish guy from Iowa.
Okay.
Literally.
There.
We won't get into that too much. But he was saying that
he was saying disclose his identity, Dan.
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, he was saying that I can't believe how bad the audio is from these people who are supposedly professional. And I guess he threw this to you, and you wrote about it. What was the transition into you writing the blog about it?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that happens when you start writing a blog. You think, okay, I'm writing an article a week and that's it. But then the whole discussion starts and people comment on my blog. They go on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and I get tons of emails. And one of them was from this guy who shall remain nameless, from Iowa, who is in Japan. He had started this new enterprise, and he needed voices. And he said, this is my experience. What he did was basically he went on some of the more well-known pay-to-plays, and he started listening to the demos. And most of the time when he listened to demos, he said, no, I don't want that one. That's crap. That sounds so bad. No. Oh, that's a maybe, and only one yes. And he could find, according to this nameless colleague of ours, about 10 ultimately out of over 100 auditions that he listened to. And he was absolutely shocked because he said most of these people advertise themselves as voiceover professionals. Well, rule number one is if you want to call yourself a professional, you have to act like a professional, and you have to be able to deliver professional broadcast quality audio. What is going on? And he said, am I crazy? So I need to have a second opinion. And who do you call? You call George and you call Dan.
And he called me, and I said, hey, there's a lot of people getting into the business now, and they don't all necessarily know exactly what they're doing quite yet. They're actors. They're not coming out of broadcasting, and things are probably a little bit different in Japan because everything's a little bit more formal there. This is the Wild West here, and he was shocked.
Yeah. So I always start thinking that because I like to take these kind of anecdotes and think about, now, what is this really an example of? To take it one step higher, because you want to go from the symptom to the real problem. And then I started thinking about, what they call the Web 2.0, right? It's that big World Wide Web that allows people to participate in anything. And it has opened many, many opportunities for people to do what they do and to present themselves in any way they seem fit. And there's a lot of great people and sincere and honest people there, but as you and I know, there's a lot of people who are not that great, not that honest, and very insincere as well. But the web made it very easy for people to create an identity and kind of this air of professionalism and posing as a pro that is really, I think, quite disgusting. But when you look at the folks who contribute on websites like Amazon.com, who gives the reviews these days? Is it like the people who are the seasoned professionals who've trained to review like audio equipment, electronics? No. When you look at the stars that you see behind any product, that's from people that know nothing about it. They've got a fridge and say, yeah, it's a great fridge, let's give it 4 stars. And all of a sudden that becomes the norm. So what we've seen with the Web 2.0, with everybody being able to participate with any qualifications, background, or credentials, is what I call an infestation of amateurs. And on one hand, it's great because, we have this global conversation going on. On the other hand, it's really, really frightening and scary because what I feel is that the level of expertise is just going down the drain. And that was exactly what this colleague was talking about when he was listening to all these auditions that he asked you to listen to as well.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things, People are not as experienced as those of us who came out of broadcasting, at least had the basics of what it is that we need to do. We knew what a VU meter was, and we understood modulation and those sorts of things. People who find that, well, now that I can get into into voiceover, which really isn't broadcasting, and I think they have a lot of this. And when I discuss this in the webinars, we talk about it on the show here. There's a lot of mythology about creating good audio. And they think that they're supposed to sound like they're supposed to sound on the radio, so they try to recreate that, and they have no idea how to do that. And it's coming out. Plus, they don't understand the basic acoustics. They don't understand that their neighbor has a heat pump, and those things are happening out there. And that's why it's important. You just can't you can try and learn it on your own, but you still need to consult with people who actually know this. And there's not a lot of people who actually understand home studios. A lot of recording engineers out there, they really don't understand home studios either. And I think people are getting a lot of advice from people who don't understand this unique environment that is yours in my basement.
Exactly. And some of them who do understand don't necessarily know how to communicate it in a way that other people who are less technically inclined can understand it. And that's one of the great things I like about what the two of you do. I mean, I'm not a techno wizard, but at least I think I understand most of the time what you're talking about, even if you don't. But I do, and I think you make it accessible to people. But what I think is also problematic is that so many people who want to get a start in this business really underestimate what it takes, that it's not really about the voice. But that part of it is when you opt to become a voiceover professional, once you start that business, you become your chief audio engineer, right? And you become the chief information officer, your financial officer, and your public relations department. And I think people really underestimate that. They think, you know what? With modern technology, it's so easy to get a start in this business. All you need is a nice, cheap USB mic and a laptop and a membership to a pay-to-play, and you're in business. And I know that there's people are trying to perpetuate that myth because they're making money off those people believing in those myths. And that really does not make me a happy camper at all. And that's one of the reasons why I started my blog as well, so I can just vent my frustration.
Right. And people need to learn these things.
Yeah, it's you venting, but it's also you educating. And that's really important. And it's the whole information and communication is completely democratic now. Anybody can access it. Anybody can talk. And every what they say about opinions are like everybody has one. And so the problem is that people don't know how to disseminate who are the authorities and the people that really know what they're talking about. If they spend some time on the blog or the forum or the chat, whatever it is, they start to learn who these people are. But when they drop in and just start asking questions and get answers from anybody and everybody, man, it just they're gonna it's a total game of Russian roulette as to whether they're going to get the right answer. And that's the part that I can
and you're not going to learn it overnight. Clearly.
No,
that's one of the other myths, Dan, that you can do this. You have an introductory training. You go to community college and do a 2-night training of breaking into the voiceover business. And hang up a sign, get a website, and boom, you're ready to make millions. No, it doesn't work that way. But you're right. What we need really is more stringent quality control and some people who can really tell what is useful information and what is just a bunch of crap.
which is
and
nice.
there's just so much crap around there, and in a way that infuriates me. Some people I talked to yesterday at the voiceover mix and said, "Yeah, why do you get so worked up about that bad audio of these amateurs? Let them be, and if somebody wants to hire them, well, let them, But I said to them, where is your professional pride? Just because you like cooking doesn't mean that you should open up a restaurant. Just because you like talking and you think that you have a nice voice doesn't mean that you should become a voiceover. But I think that we need a little bit more professional pride in our business. Kind of the thing that if you do something professionally, at least my take on it is that you want to become better and better and better, that you want to further your profession in all areas as much as possible. And I don't see that happening. The other thing that I don't see happening is that for instance, this colleague who listened to all these auditions, he found them on pay-to-plays, and I said, how is it possible that these people can post their profile and their auditions on these sites? Isn't there some kind of oversight and quality control? What are these people thinking?
Well, they think they can do it. And they're, of course, the ones complaining that, well, I've been on the site for 2 years and I haven't gotten a job yet. Perhaps.
Exactly.
I mean, think about that one for a second.
Every time I sent my audition into the world, I got a message back and said, sounds great. What's wrong here? This all got me thinking about, what does it really mean to be a voiceover pro? And do we need any standards? Do we need any regulations in this unregulated Wild West, as you call it? And so to get back to the story of that colleague, he said, I kind of gave up on trying to find voices on these sites. What I'm going to do from now on is I'm going to go to SAVOA, the Society of Accredited Voiceover Artists, and I want to find talents that are accredited through that organization, and I think that's a fabulous idea.
Nicely done.
Both of you are involved with SAVOA, correct?
Yeah, we're both involved, and we're the ones that listen. We're the ones that we look at we're the ones that look at the standards. And what I really look for when I'm listening to tech demos and stuff, does somebody get it? Do they understand what they're doing? Because even if they're futzing with something, I can tell if they knew how to do it or if they didn't.
They can get lucky. Yeah, they can luck into it.
Yeah, but there are a lot more people not getting accepted into SAVOA than are getting into SAVOA, and it's not easy. You have to know what you're doing. So, it was a good thing for him to think of. I wonder where he got the idea from.
Absolutely. So I'm telling you, that's going to be one of my resolutions for the new year, because full disclosure here, I'm not a member yet. But yeah, exactly. With the emphasis on yet. For a while, I said, I'm a Dutch voiceover, and I know that you accredit people you started accrediting people in German, correct?
German. We've got one in Turkey. We've got them in New Zealand, in Germany, England, France, all over the place.
Terrific. So that's one of my goals for 2012, to become the first Dutch accredited professional voiceover as part of the SAVOA gang, because ultimately I think that's the way to go. Because it's the web for the people, by the people, and what we need is kind of a self-regulatory body, and I think SAVOA is it.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, we appreciate the plug, so everybody join up at SAVOA now. Paul.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. Pleasure having you with us on the show tonight, and as always, I read your stuff every week, and I go, how do you come up with this stuff? And, it's always a pleasure to talk to you and to hear what you feel about these things.
This January, this January, this January. This January, this January, this January. This January, this January, this January. This January. This January. This January.
Too. And we'll talk to you real soon. So have a happy holidays, and we'll see you next time.
And enjoy wherever you're going with your wife, but I heard it's going to be a great trip.
It better be warm. That's all I care about. All righty. All right. Well, we'll be back in just a couple of minutes here. We've got batting audio of the week, and then we've got to wrap it up because it's Sunday night. Kids got to go to school tomorrow. All right. We'll be right back after this message. Thanks, Paul.
Bye.
This is East West Audio Body Shop with Dan Leonard in the East and George Whittam in the West. Two guys I love spending Sunday nights with.
Well, all right. Well, what else were you planning on doing tonight anyway? Wait, give me, George, where am I?
Just playing with
you. All righty. Well, the holiday season is still upon us.
Yes,
you can get your swag at the East West Audio Body Shop, but you also, not just stuff to decorate yourself. You want to be able to sound your best and be as professional as possible, so you can sound as good as you possibly can. So even Paul will be proud of you. That's the best place to go to get the stuff that you need is voiceoveressentials.com, because Harlan Hogan, our good friend and patron saint, has picked all the best stuff for you. He's written a great book, The Voice Actor's Guide to, what is it called? Be on the Road? To recording on the road.
Voice Actor's Guide to Recording at Home.
Recording
and
on
the
the
road. And on the road is the second
And on the
edition.
road with his assistant there, Jeff Fisher, who helped write that. And also his great microphone, the VO1A. And that's not the only mic he has there too. He's also got some of the other MXL models, and he's got the MicPort Pro and the MicMate. The MicMate Pro and of course
Pro.
the Portabooth Pro and some great other things that he's got in there. If you need it for voiceover, he's got it there. Of course, you got to have the voiceover sign.
That's right.
I've got that, and then there's the. I'm reaching up here for it.
Oh, you got it?
I have my little key here that turns my light on and off.
Yeah,
you can actually see that. It says, and
he actually sells that too.
He has these, and so I whenever Jacob's out there playing his video games or something, I just flash that a few times, and suddenly it's like, Daddy's talking.
You know what you got to do next though is you need to get another one.
Yeah,
and that's the kill switch.
The kill switch.
Guess what's plugged into
I've
that
got
one?
One of those.
Guess what's plugged into that one? The whole video game system.
I already have that.
Oh, okay.
That one turned into like an electric dog collar. Go to bed. No. He was out of there. He knew if I said, get out of there. But kill switch is a good idea. But we digress. Look, he's even got music stands there for as a copy stand. Great. He's offering the Epigee 1 now. Look at all the stuff that he's got in this place. If you need gadgets. It, Harlan Hogan has it at Voiceover Essentials. So go on over there and stock, your stockings with stuff from voiceoveressentials.com, and you will get the best stuff that you need to be doing voiceover.
Yeah, he only carries the stuff that really applies to our business, and he's really careful about what really works. Like the USB mic from MXL, the USB 009 2496 is a unbelievably good quality USB mic. It sets the bar for USB mics. So he carries just the right stuff. If he sells it on there, it's because he's tried it or he knows about it very intimately, and he don't sell no junk. Let's just put it that way.
All right.
Thank you, Harlan.
And again, once again, talking about good audio, it's time for bad audio of the week.
Yes, it is.
And what do you have for us this week?
Well, through the miracles of modern technology. No, actually, I managed to play it for everybody already. You guys have already heard this clip because this software I use, Ustream, it just has this problem where it doesn't tell you the names of the clips you're trying to find. And when they all look the same, some of them do. I misclick once in a while, so I apologize for that. But anyway, this is the audio file, and this is the audio file. This is from a really big time voice talent, and let me just play it for you.
This January, this January, this January. This January, this January, this January.
Okay. What? Where do we begin? What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear that?
Proximity effect.
Right.
Well, maybe I wasn't hearing it clearly enough.
No, it sounded muddy, right? Really muddy.
It was not bright.
Yeah. Well, what's weird is that's actually one of his clients actually likes that sound. WWE Wrestling it likes that sound. They like this over the top, ridiculous, ballsy, huge sound. And the problem is none of his other clients like it. So we had to set up a specific EQ setting on his Avalon preamp just for that one client. And, basically that knob is basically the one that he has to turn to 11 every time he goes to do WWE. The problem is he has to remember to turn it back after every WWE session. So it is like the proximity effect knob. It's like taking it's about 110, 120 hertz and boosting it 10 dB. And it's like over the top, right? So, be really careful if you have to use more than one EQ setting for different clients. And I pity you if you have to go through that. But, you have to be really careful about your settings and listen to what you're doing. We don't all use headphones while we record. And when you're doing ISDN, there's no way to vet really what's going out the other side unless you're listening on headphones. But, watch out for exaggerated settings. Look down. If you bumped a knob, you'll know immediately. If you see some setting that's at one extreme or the other, you'll get a clear idea right away that something's not quite set right.
Yeah. But that's what magic markers are for, by the way.
Yeah, magic marker. If you're bold enough to put a Sharpie on your $2,400 preamp, you can do that. Or you can use little sticky Post-it notes, or I even cut little tiny triangles out of the label maker label stuff and just make little teeny arrows and say, point it here. So anyway, I wanted to get into my real quickly about the iPhone Pro Tools thing, because I know we got into the acoustics and the soundproofing, which was really valuable. Right. But just a little tip: if you're a Pro Tools user, dyed in the wool, and there's just no two ways about it. But you're also
Nobody's
gadget,
perfect.
Yeah, and you're a gadget freak, and you just gotta have an iPhone. Then it's time to bust out the wallet and buy another Mac, because you got to keep your Mac dedicated, or your PC, but Macs, this can be a real problem. You have to have a Mac dedicated for Pro Tools. And if you can take it off the internet or shut off the internet, that's probably the best possible thing I can tell you for Pro Tools, because Pro Tools will break when you upgrade almost, if you upgrade the operating system, it'll break Pro Tools. If you upgrade QuickTime, it can break Pro Tools.
If you're playing Angry Birds, it'll break Pro Tools.
Yeah. So the thing is if you have an iPhone, well, guess what? iOS 5 just came out. Well, you want to put iOS 5 on that phone. Well, you can't install iOS 5 unless you're running iTunes 10.5. Well, you can't run iTunes 10.5 unless you're running OS 10.6.8 or 10.7.2, so on and so forth. And it creates this horrible spiraling, tumbling, upgrade hell. So don't get yourself into that position. Just if you got to have an iPhone and you want to marry it to a computer, just go get another computer specifically for your day-to-day office iPhone use, and don't even think about syncing it with the same Mac you're running Pro Tools. Enough said.
Right. All right. Or just don't use Pro Tools.
Use Pro Tools.
I think that's the smartest thing to do, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Well, Pat Duca was on a couple weeks ago. He said he spent 8 hours installing Pro Tools 10. Yes.
Just put, you get Twisted Wave, you download it, it's there. I mean, come on now.
Yeah. If you're doing production, it's a different story, but most of us are not. So
yes,
don't go there.
Yes. Well, we're not going to be here next week. Well, maybe you'll be here, but I won't be here.
I'm thinking about coming back by myself and playing around.
We need to test some stuff.
Yeah, I want to play around with Google Plus Hangouts. So what I'm going to do next week is when the show, or right before the show starts, I'm going to start a Hangout in Google Plus. Everybody that I know on Google Plus already have about 180 voice actors. I'll send an invite to join the Hangout. If you're not already a friend of mine on Google Plus, you should be, so I can add you to the Hangout list. And then the first, I think, 9 people that are able to join will all be able to be in one big old video chat. And then what I'll do is I'll share that on Ustream so it can get broadcasted to everybody else. And we'll see what happens, because I've been dying to figure out a better way to have more guests on camera. And as you guys noticed with Skype and having Paul on, it's a crappy solution, especially considering they make you pay for it. The audio quality degrades considerably. If you notice, Dan's picture quality went from beautiful full frame and to a crumbly, slow frame rate, picture. So we're looking for new ideas without spending any dough, or at least not much dough right now. So we're going to give that a try. I think I'm going to give that a try next week. While Dan, what are you doing, Dan?
The wife and I are going to the Paradise for a couple of days.
Excellent.
We're going down to the Dominican Republic.
Ah, that's awesome.
Yes, and go and hang out in Puerto Plata for a couple of days and soak up the sun, do some snorkeling, and read and relax and stay away from the internet for 4 or 5 days.
Dude, if you can pull that off, I mean, listen, are you going to actually not be on the internet for 4 days?
I'm bringing the iPad, but I'm not.
Are you really going to unplug?
I am going to try and unplug. I'm going to go through DTs doing it.
Yeah, man.
But it's
impossible.
I want to pay attention to something I really love, and that's my wife, as opposed to this computer.
And it's a good time to go away too.
That's right. And we'll play some golf and see some other part of the world that I haven't gotten the chance to see. And and we'll have a good time. And then I'll be relaxed and refreshed for the big drive for the holidays, which is going to be nuts. Yeah. People think things slow down on the holidays. Not in the voiceover business. There's lots of stuff that goes on, and I got a lot of stuff that I got to take care of, and I need a little bit of rest. And
you deserve it.
You got to get your energy reserves up before winter hits around here.
Yeah.
Because any of you who's ever been in Buffalo or in the Northeast this time of year, you'll be here until the end of the year.
Yeah, I will.
Now, East West Audio Body Shop, we should do it. I should go do it from your house on the Christmas, and you should do it from your parents' place in Philadelphia.
You know what? That could be arranged.
It probably could.
Yeah, maybe we should do that. I'll leave a hide-a-keep for you.
Yeah. The thing is, everybody's going to be everywhere else anywhere for Christmas anyway. But we're spending Hanukkah in Santa Monica.
Very nice.
We're actually going to do that. Have a little menorah down by the pier there.
Hanukkah this year in relation to Christmas? Or what dates?
They overlap. It actually overlaps my birthday this year. It never happens. That's right.
Well, make sure you go ice skating when you're here.
Yes. Well, they say it. The Jewish holidays are weird. So say they're very late this year. You talk to one rabbi, no, they're when they always are. Just you have to understand the calendars.
Yeah,
but anyway,
I don't.
Well, anyway, 2 weeks. We've got a guest in 2 weeks. We want to get what was it we wanted to do? We wanted to have the best possible person or the best guests.
Well, I was thinking of having people vote. We've already got somebody in mind, but I just thought I would see. Let's do it real quick here at the end of the show. We got 27 something people in the chat room. Everybody just, show not a show of hands, but just your suggestion for
type in a name.
Type in a name. Who do you think is the one we got to have on the show to end out the year? Somebody we've had on before, and you want to hear more about from this person. Give us your input, and we'll give you 30 seconds. Starting the time, go.
All right, one for Corvo, one for Taylor.
Taylor.
All right, come on. Let's see here. Kim Kardashian. I like that.
Yeah.
There's 2 for Corvo, 3 for Corvo. That's not fair, Tom. You know him too well. All right. Let's see. Pat Duke. Okay. Kendra. Who's Kendra?
I don't know. But speaking of stopwatches, guess what I got?
What? Oh, you've got a Diane Merritt stopwatch?
She sent it. She just sent it to me. Thanks, Diane. I got one of these great little stopwatches. I'll make sure I don't have the alarm going off during the show.
Yeah, really.
And a can koozie. Good job, Dan. Thank you very much. That was really sweet of you. Think of us. What do we got here? What do we got?
Let's see.
And Harlan.
Yeah, we did Harlan. There's 2 for Harlan.
Zoller,
Zip gets Syllabub.
Kendra, Pat.
Betty Zoller.
Oh yeah, we haven't had her on yet, so we'll book her next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Joe, Joe's always a favorite.
Joe was like our second guest, wasn't he?
Joe was our second. Pat Frey was our inaugural guest, and Joe was our second, and Corvo was third or fourth. No, he was really.
He was our third or fourth. Yeah. Peter O'Connell. Yes, we've had Peter on. At least we have easy access to Peter.
That's right.
And so it looks like it's pretty much between Corvo and Harlan here.
It is. Maybe I'll do one last vote on the wall, and then we'll see whoever can respond first. We'll take him. It'll probably be Dave. I have a good feeling it's gonna be Dave.
Yeah, but he really wants to be on. But
I know. And we love Dave. So okay, I'm calling it now.
All right.
Dave Corvo on the show.
They get Corvo every week, though.
I know, but
the top of the show. Whose voice is that? It's Corvo.
I know. No, he deserves it. We deserve it. Let's not. Well, he doesn't deserve it. We deserve it.
We deserve to have him. We've been working hard at it, so we should have the best.
He's
and
awesome.
Maybe Corvo should be on here.
He's awesome.
All right.
Okay. Corvo it is. 2 weeks.
All right.
Thanks,
let's
guys.
see if he can show up now. That'll be really something. He'll find a way. The guy doesn't sleep.
You got
anyway, well, we're running it's like, again, we're just having too good a time. More fun than we should be allowed to have. But
exactly.
And we're glad that you guys join us every week here on East West Audio Body Shop. And I'll be back in 2 weeks. George will be here next week somehow or another. And then we'll be getting into 2012. This was our 30th show. Can you believe it?
30 shows, man. 30 shows. That is unbelievable.
Yeah, we never would have thought when we said, back in February, we said we're going to do this show. Here we are, still here. We're still doing it, and it's all because of you guys. And we thank you for being here. Now, we'll be back next week, and 2 weeks I'll be back. And so I want you to have enjoy as winter descends upon all of us. And we'll be back, like I said, in 2 weeks. I'm just rambling on.
Yeah, winter's descending on me right now, actually. I got to get out of this office. It's freezing in here. It's literally snowing in my office.
Wow, look at that.
I'm getting out of here.
All right. Well, I'm Dan Leonard in the very warm East.
And I'm George Whittam in the freezing cold West.
And together we are East West Audio Body Shop. Have a great week, everybody. And we'll see you.